Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Heller with Distribution Strategy Group. Welcome to our Distribution Leader panel, choosing and leveraging the best ERP for your company. We're going to have a lively, vibrant discussion today. We've got three great panelists. They're there on the screen. I'll introduce them to you, and they'll introduce themselves here in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's pay the bills so we can continue to provide you with this content. The first thing I want to tell you about is our new customer satisfaction system that measures NPS and gives you a lot more data called Customer Experience RX. This is from Distribution Strategy Group. And we know, or smart distributors know, that increasing customer loyalty leads to growth in both revenue and profitability. Furthermore, increasing loyalty depends on being able to measure customer satisfaction and improve the customer experience. Our Customer Experience RX system provides a new and exciting way to measure overall customer satisfaction, but more importantly, to understand the drivers of customer satisfaction and customer experience. If you are using Net Promoter Score or you're looking for a way to systematically improve customer satisfaction and customer experience, please reach out to us. I'd be happy to give you a free demo of Customer Experience RX. Next sponsor is White Cup, longtime partner for Distribution Strategy Group. And White Cup believes distributors win more with data-driven technology because the right technology increases revenues and builds sustainable profits. Distributors need tools that use data to make selling smarter, faster, and easier for their teams. White Cup CRM, business intelligence, and pricing solutions are built specifically for distributors and provide access to intuitive automation and are integrated with your ERP. Set your sales team up for success with White Cup. Visit whitecupsolutions.com. That's whitecupsolutions.com to schedule a free 1-hour sales consultation with a team of experts to evaluate your current sales process and talk through actionable steps you can take to make changes that will increase revenue and profits using data analysis techniques and more. And our last sponsor for today is Infor. Infor is a global leader in business cloud software specialized by industry. They develop complete solutions for their focus industries, including distribution, industrial manufacturing, food and beverage, retail, and more. Infor's mission-critical enterprise applications and services are designed to deliver sustainable operational advantages with security and faster time to value. Their modern ERP and WMS solutions have distribution industry functionality built in, and they make it easier for you to offer new value-added services, elevate the customer experience, and achieve operational excellence. Infor is obsessed with delivering successful business outcomes for customers, and they're continually innovating to quickly solve emerging business and industry challenges. Over 65,000 organizations in more than 175 countries, from Fortune 500 enterprises to SMBs, rely on Infor's 17,000 employees and their deep industry expertise to help overcome market disruptions and achieve their business goals. Visit www.infor.com/distribution. That's infor.com/distribution to learn more. Please feel free to submit your questions. We do have a Q&A button. We already have one question in, so thank you, Imtiaz. We'll get to yours in a minute, but first I want to introduce our panelists. We're delighted to have Scott Stein, who's the Chief Information Officer, Digital Officer with IEWC, John Fendenheim, who's the Chief Information Officer for Elite Roofing Supply, and Craig Costa, who's the VP of Business Technology for Porter Pipe and Supply. Gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. Please make your way in. And that's just a brief introduction, but why don't we go, oops, I'm jumping ahead here. Why don't we go ahead and have the three of you talk about, what you do, about your career and a little bit about your companies. John, we'll start with you.
Hi, thank you, Ian. Thank you guys for having me today. Yes, I'm here at CIO at Elite Roofing Supply Company. I've been here for just a couple months now, but I've kind of grown up through home building. So I've been more in the B2C. And so getting into that distribution area, new set of eyes, and learning a lot about that distribution B2B world. So, I have that experience with a lot of different ERPs. So, hopefully, I'm looking forward to that good discussion today and joining with Craig and Scott on this. So thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you. Craig, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Craig Costa with Porter Pipe and Supply Company. I've been with Porter Pipe now going on 29 years in a couple of weeks. So I had the
Wow.
opportunity to bring us through a couple of implementations here at Porter Pipe. I have the fantastic opportunity of overseeing all of our strategy and direction for technology in Porter Pipe. So again, I thank you for having me in. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to help some of you out there get through this process, as we just went live on CSD about 7 months ago. So
Great.
it's been
In 29 years, are you thinking about making a career of it, Craig?
at this point, I think I'm going to stick around for a little while longer.
Great. Thank you. Scott, tell us about yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Afternoon. Scott Stein, Chief Information Digital Officer, all things technology here at IEWC. IEWC is in the wire and cable distribution, largely serving more industrial OEM type providers, as well as I'll say infrastructure providers. Everything from telecom, data center, cellular, etc. So I actually started my career implementing ERP around Y2K. I know I don't look that old, but it's been a necessary evil throughout everybody's career. And remember the days of the world was going to fall apart with Y2K. And it's been a great journey ever since. I think it's something that every business has and can't live without. And how do we, like we said, choose and leverage the best of our ability with the ERP that we have. So looking
I think one of the benefits of Y2K is no one's going to be afraid about Y3K. We've been through. So okay, we have an interesting group here because we have one on-prem ERP company, one pure cloud ERP company, and one hybrid, right? So we talked a little bit about this in the prep. So Scott, you're the on-prem company, right?
Yep, running SAP.
Tell us about your thinking about being on-prem, thoughts about the cloud in the future, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, so the company I was at prior to, I've been with IWC just over a year now, and pick your flavor of migrating from on-prem to cloud. It's been one of the big things is, okay, it's potentially a full re-implementation. There wasn't a lot of great migration tools initially to get this done, although I think there's more and more being developed to ease the transition versus a complete reimagination and reinstall. And also really, I think a big piece of it is the financial aspect of, depending on what gets measured, and what's important at the company, right? Moving from on-prem to cloud, you're going from perhaps a fully depreciated EBITDA neutral type system to something that is a new, several $100,000 in operating expense that is going to have to be digested going forward. So I think that's been one of the big considerations in my experience going forward, is just the financial impact of moving off premise to the cloud.
Into a subscription model, basically.
Right.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And Craig, you're full cloud, so you're on the other extreme, but it's pretty recent, right?
So we are now full cloud, and it is on the other extreme. We came from on-prem, running Infor's SXE on-prem in a Unix environment. Some of the biggest advantages for me is I can remember waking up in the middle of the night, just making sure that server is still going and everything's good and we're not having any issues. Where now we're in the cloud, we don't have to worry about updates. We don't have to worry about any more implementations. We take advantage of all the latest and greatest as it comes down. Some of the disadvantages with being in the cloud is speed. So in our environment, and I'm sure like many of yours, is our team members are so used to just flying through what they're doing. And with CSD and moving to the cloud environment, it did slow us down. We did move a little bit slower, and we continue to ramp up and get used to the new environment. But that was one of the biggest drawbacks about moving to a cloud environment, aside from making sure that you've got all your ISP, your backup ISPs, and everything in place for if and when you do ever go down.
Yeah. So Robin's sent in a question. Can you talk more about the speed issue? Do you want to expand on that just a little bit before we move to John and his hybrid world?
So coming from a GUI on-prem environment, start going way back, we went from character to GUI. Now we're going from GUI to web UI. So moving from GUI to web UI, there is a difference, no doubt. It moves a little bit slower just because it's web-based. You are going out there to the cloud to pull information and bring it back down. It's also with Infor and many of the other cloud environments, it's a little bit more clicky. So you're using your mouse a little bit more versus just tab, 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 that they're done. The great thing about CSD and with Infor CSD environment is you can build extensions and customizations where you can make it so that you can tab through instead of clicking as much. So that is a plus. But I would say that was probably our biggest issue, that slow down and initial back and forth data, just waiting for the fields to populate.
Is that an order entry issue?
Mainly order entry.
Okay.
Our team on order entry just flies through stuff. So that slowed them down a little bit. Now, being 7 months in, they've gotten used to it. Plus, it's gotten better working back and forth with Infor. They fixed a lot of the slowness issues that we had up front.
Okay, good. John, Mr. Hybrid, why don't you talk about your setup and what you see as the pluses and minuses of it?
You bet. So here I inherited ours. So ours is we use a DMSI. So Agility is our ERP. And so when we say that it's hybrid, we have the manufacturer, the vendor itself is hosting ours. So we have to be in that environment. I think somebody had put a question up there about, is it the BDI setup, and that's ours. So our users have to go in through a remote session to get to our ERP environment. And then once they're there, they connect directly to our own private hosted ERP. So it is kind of that good mix in a way that we are the IT here at Elite isn't responsible for the updates and the uptime and all that stuff. So that's good, right? That's the cloud wonderfulness, I guess. Where but then the same limitations on the cloud side about how can you connect into that data? Is it through APIs, or is it how can you connect and integrate other aspects of your business into your ERP? So that's kind of the drawback. You don't have all the tools at your disposal. You have what they kind of give you. So
good. And so MTS has an interesting question here for all three of you. And he's phrasing it as an industry standard, but what is the industry standard for companies and their total percentage use of their ERP system? I think he's asking, do you guys use 50% of the total functionality, 85% of it? What's your perception of all the features and capabilities of your ERP? How much are you actually using?
Yeah, I can start that. I think throughout all my different ERPs, I don't think anybody can say they use 100% or even 90% of it. There's always more to grab out of that. We are probably using, I would say, in that 50% area. We do use their data warehouse aspect to it. We utilize a lot of their features that they have out there, but we don't use, like some ERP systems you got to watch, right? They try to get outside their lane. Like ours is trying to, they're rolling out their CRM aspect. But again, it's hosted, it's kind of walled off, and I think that makes it difficult for our end users to get in through like a CRM. So we will, we'll go another route with that.
So a percentage, you using half, 3/4?
About half, I think.
About half. Okay. Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I would agree with John. I would say, probably about 50% of all the different modules and functionality that's offered. I think one trend in the beginning of my career was try to get everything on a single ERP, right? It was jam as much as you can into the monolithic structure of whatever and have all the modules, all the bolt-ons, right? Whereas nowadays, I think there's a more best of breed and more composable type strategy that's being employed to say, one vendor can't be great at everything. And if they tell you that's probably not true. And it goes to where do you need to be really good and where can you take advantage of that ERP integration, but where do you want to be best of breed and then build those bridges in between your ERP and other systems.
All right, so you said about 50%. You're on SAP, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Craig, what do you think you're using?
Sure. So that I would say about 50 to 60%. And
Okay.
my thinking behind that goes along with what Scott was just talking about. So with myself and through our entire department, we have one goal, and that's to create a compelling experience for our customers. One ERP system that you decide to go with, I mean, you could be strong on the inventory side, you could be strong on the accounting side, you could be strong on the sales side. I mean, they all have what their strengths and weaknesses are. The most important thing for me is to make sure that we choose an ERP where we can use the bolt-on third-party applications when needed. I mean, you find what that vendor is best at doing. How easily can we integrate that vendor with our ERP, with CSD that we're doing, with what we chose? That's what's most important to me, so that we can take advantage of the best out there, no matter what we choose to go with.
So you want to know the ecosystem
For sure.
and how easily it integrates together.
Yep, absolutely. I want to know the APIs. I want to know what we can use, how easily it can integrate.
Okay. In order to know that, you need to be clear on your requirements early on, right? Because that helps you understand what bolt-ons you might need, what's best in class for what are the best in class requirements for the ERP you're going to select. So let's talk a little bit about requirements definition, requirements planning. You guys have been through this more than once. If you get that wrong, nothing else, you introduce just an enormous amount of risk that you've chosen the right system and that it's going to work for you, right? So tell me, I don't know who wants to start, about requirements planning. How do you do it right? How do you engage the organization? How do you get users to pay attention to something that may be 2 years out, but you need to know, you need the input now? What's your experience in making sure that happens correctly? Scott, you want to start this one?
Yeah, sure. I could go first. I think, so I always broken it up into kind of functional requirements and technical requirements. And usually the, IT kind of takes the lead on technical requirements and doing some of that future forward thinking of, hey, where are we going to need to go? Some of those vendor viability questions, but certainly engaging and identifying the business process owners up front, getting them thinking about requirements and what works today, what strengths do we have today, what do we need to keep, and then maybe what some new functionality. You got to be aware of the well, this would be really nice to have versus what do I really need to have,
right.
Type thing, because your requirements can get pretty long. One thing I really tried to do was focus the business process owners on what are really these, I call them signature or key business process requirements, right? What are the things that bubble to the top that just absolutely have to be nailed or we're going to fail, right? So really coalescing and identifying those and making those the where we spend the most time going through vendor demos. These are the things we have to see, we have to get right, they have to be rock solid, kind of going back to what Craig said about where are the strengths of this vendor. They have to meet those signature business requirements, those process requirements that make us who we are, and focus on those. Otherwise, you can get caught up on a small requirement that maybe the vendor doesn't meet, but is it really important?
Got it. Thank you, John. You want to add to that?
Yeah, those are great items there, Scott. I agree with all that. I think the thing that I think makes it successful, besides the implementation partner, I think it's about really engaging with business and the functional areas, and almost to a point where you try to make it fun or not related to the ERP necessarily, and really get that buy-in and get that engagement as early as you can, and also setting the expectations that, hey, yes, we're here in the raw stage, and but there's going to be cloudy days that are going to be coming up. But as much as you can, get them engaged, get them to ask the right questions, and decipher those to make the technical requirements, from an IT standpoint, that you're building towards that. But I think it's really about getting that engagement, getting understanding of what they are truly wanting. Scott, I think, had hit it a little bit about, not only is it, it's the bad stuff that you're faced with now. There's an obvious reason why you're looking at an ERP switch, but don't forget about what actually works, and make sure that that's still there when you go through the requirements.
Excellent. Craig, requirements planning, keys to success.
Boy, Scott and John absolutely nailed it. Aside from a natural disaster, an ERP change in an organization is probably the most disruptive thing you can do, period. It's tough. Nobody wants to do it, but we eventually need to do it to stay current and take advantage of the technology that's out there. So if you're not the person that has the best understanding of the organization that you're working in, make sure you've got people on your team that are, because it's so important to know each one of the areas inside and out, to know, okay, how is this going to work? What processes do we need to take a look at? Do we need to change any processes? Do we have to go back to our vendor that we chose and say, hey, this isn't going to work for us. What do we need to do different? One of the advantages that we had, and I definitely got to give thanks to NSA, which was our implementation partner in making this happen. That absolutely was the make or break between our go live on CSD back in November. They did a fantastic job by helping us through this process, making sure that we covered all bases, so that when we did finally do the migration and go live, we absolutely ran into problems, but we definitely would have ran into a lot more problems if they weren't there to help us.
And NSA, is that
NSA was one of Infor implementation partners.
Got it. Okay, good. Well, that's a nice call out for them. So this is an interesting question, Imtiaz again. So the second half seems a little personal. Have any of you ever experienced a rip and replace ERP solution? So in other words, a failed ERP solution? That question strikes me as a little personal. So I would just say, when you've been a part of an ERP implementation failure, or you have heard about one from, a friend, what are the typical causes? What causes these things to fail?
I'll go. I can't say I've been a part of one. I've heard about it, right? And usually it's perpetuated by some crisis that we have to do this in 3 months, come hell or high water. And there's typically lack of good training, lack of good data migration and planning, and lack of buy-in from the business, right? It's usually when that happens, it's just been forced down their throat in a rapid fashion, and adoption suffers. So,
got it. So they didn't do the change management right. What do you think, Craig? Oh, I think Craig may have frozen up.
Fortunately, I'm going to knock on wood right now. I have never been a botched implementation. So the only thing that I can say to that is really managing expectations, making sure the entire organization knows exactly what to expect. And I mean, you can't know everything. You don't know what you don't know, but boy, going through everything with a fine-tooth comb and just making sure that every department head, every champion, every leader knows how to do that process inside and out, make sure it's going to work for your organization.
John, anything to add?
Yeah, I agree. I'm knocking on wood over here too, that I haven't been one of those where you had to change midstream, and thankfully, but that's not to say that things had gone sideways or it's askew, or you have to go back and ask for something different from a resource. But yes, around change control, and that is about communication. I think, Craig, you hit it right. You have to get the department heads. You got to be in that constant communication and not let things go dark, or, a lot of the stuff that happens is behind the scenes. You're standing up servers, you're getting a service started, and you're doing things right. There's data cleanup, but if we keep that communication going, and it doesn't always need to be just an update. It just, there's a two-way communication. What other things are you seeing? This is what you told us before. Let's ask it again. Maybe ask it 5 times, and maybe in different ways, right? So then that way we have that expectations are always updated and constant, versus hey, when you started this thing back 2 years ago from just asking the question, and then you started implementing, then how many things have changed along the way. So the change management is a huge on it.
So we have an interesting question here from an attendee who says, we run a smaller distributor, 10 million in annual revenue. We're considering some of the lower and mid-market SaaS solutions. Does any of your advice change? If you were advising a friend who was running a $10 million distributor and looking at ERP solutions, what kind of tips would you give them? Craig, you want to start us off?
Sure. None of the process, I don't think anything that any of us are talking about would change one bit, because again, you're $10 million now. Where are you going? I mean, you're not going to stay $10 million. I'm sure you've got goals and objectives that you're going to move well beyond that. So you want to make sure you're choosing an ERP that's going to sustain for a long period of time and going to sustain your company and your processes. So no, I would say nothing would change or be different.
Scott?
Yeah, I do agree that the processes and thought process stays similar. I think, at that size, you need to consider how many resources do you have internally to really support, and you might want to be leaning more on, kind of like John's model of a provider that hosts it, and you have pretty much zero touch and it's turnkey. Again, you still got to go through the same thought process and considerations as Craig has said. But yeah, I'm guessing at $10 million, you maybe have half a FTE dedicated to IT. So
Yeah, right. John, anything to add?
Yeah, I like both of those answers, and that you don't change your approach. You still need that communication. Hopefully it's a smaller, amount of people or smaller scale, but at the same time, it's still about getting that buy-in, being present, that kind of thing. But definitely take a look at those smaller providers. They do offer a lot. They're a little bit more personal versus, if you go to SAP or others, you don't know who you're going to get, and it's, you really rely on your implementers. But maybe on the smaller ones, you might get a little bit more personal aspect. But I'd say, definitely keep looking for the future. Look for those things that, as you grow, that it'll grow with you. So don't get something that limits you. But besides that, no, these keep the same ideas there. Change management, communication, all that kind of stuff still applies.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about data, because it's such a big part of putting in a new ERP. Is you've got to cleanse and migrate, standardize data from an old system to a new system. And how do you go about that? Craig, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So the data cleansing and everything that we had to do was really done by NSA. So we didn't have to put much into that internally. My team worked with NSA on getting that done, but they did handle all the data scrubbing, making sure all the odd characters, making sure all the crap, you want to call it, is out of the data, so that when it did hit the data lake for our migration, everything went pretty smooth. We didn't run any issues with data.
Got it. So even stuff like unit of measure standardization and all that stuff, they
All of
figured it
that
out.
stuff was all scrubbed. Anything that we had to do was done through what they call a mass maintenance and quick and dirties per se, where we can go mass update a bunch of different product at one time.
Fantastic. Scott?
Data.
yeah, I think in my experience, this is I'd say one of the 3 key things you can't spend enough time on in planning and thinking about ERP. And would say start as early as possible, right? As soon as you kind of get requirements defined, and even part of requirements goes to data. And that the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, is very much true. I think, and that's great, Craig's experience and having a partner, implementation partner that really helps with data cleansing and conversion is awesome. But I think this is, like I said, one of the key things to make the implementation successful is getting the data right, and you don't want to repeat the sins of the past. So making enough time for data cleansing, good data migration, thinking through things is a work stream or a thread in your project for implementation that can never start too early and never test enough.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because you are cleaning up sins of the past. So there's some of that is just technical debt that you've accrued over the years, and you have to fix it to put in the new ERP. But sometimes the new ERP gets blamed for having to fix those problems, right?
Yeah.
John, anything to add to that?
No, I think you guys had hit that. So yeah, I think a lot of it is around knowing what the new ERP that you're doing. And even if sometimes you do a re-implementation, right, of an ERP system, and it's the same thing. It's about maybe it's around your locations and how they were named, or maybe it's stupid things from the customer. When I was in the B2C, it's like their how you put in their name or how you put in address or that kind of stuff. So a lot of that I don't think you put enough emphasis on keeping your data clean and what that looked like getting the new system, because at the end of the day, it's all about the reporting for the executive level, right? And how can you pull reports easily? They want it by this. Oh, I didn't have it by that, initially. So getting those requirements, understanding how your data should look, and then having the right process to clean the data and get it in.
Great. Okay, so we've got a bunch of listener questions, so I'm going to knock some of these off here. The first one is, considering that you're only using about 50% of the ERP capability, the question is, do you integrate with other cloud/hosted solutions, and are you using an integration platform as a service to do that? And if so, which one, and how's your experience been? Scott.
Yeah, great question. And yeah, I think that's exactly right. You find those bolt-on systems that are, whether it's CRM or WMS, that, provide that best of breed functionality, if you will, and integrate with them. I've done everything right. The integration is key. I think that's another piece is kind of speccing that out, and requirements up front is identifying how many integration points you're going to need. And all the flat file point-to-point integration does serve a need. And those, kind of batch interfaces still may have a place in certain systems. I've had experience now with 2 different iPaaS solutions, just recently gone through a selection. I've had some experience with Oracle Integration Cloud, and that's great if you're an Oracle shop. As it matured, it turned into a really powerful tool. And then just recently went through a selection, and we wound up picking MuleSoft as kind of our iPaaS solution.
Great. Thank you. Craig, you're all cloud now, so I assume you've addressed this issue.
Definitely. So when selecting an ERP system, I mean, it's for me, for our team, it's just as important to make sure that you can easily integrate with any third-party application. It's just as important as the ERP itself, for that everybody's gonna be working in and day out. If we didn't have that ease of integration, there's no way I would have selected Infor.CSD. And with Infor.CSD, it comes with what they call ION, and that's the integration platform with Infor.CSD environment, where then we can take those workflows and we can build the APIs and integrate directly with pretty much every third-party application out there. So that was extremely important for me, and probably the most important thing was that integration piece.
Very interesting. Okay, got it. And John.
Yeah, these guys are much farther down the road than I have been, but yes, I agree with that. It's very important. The Mule, we did that at a previous location, and having the ability to see all the your integration and easily go in one location. I have been more restrictive on that and have built, proprietary, integrations and stuff like that. So having that, the ability to have a platform to go to is huge and key.
Got it. Great. Okay. Thank you. So, gosh, I'm trying to keep up with the questions here. So this question is similar to the percentage of ERP that you're using. What percentage of your suppliers would you estimate are automating the main 4 EDI documents for order fulfillment? So, I think we're talking about advanced ship notices and invoices, purchase orders, PO acknowledgements. Not a great area of expertise for me, but that's how I understand it. So what percentage of your vendors are automating that? John, you have an answer for that? Do you know?
Yeah, we're on the smaller side. We're getting into that. So I would say probably for us, it's sitting between 10 and 20%.
Okay.
And that's just because we're smaller and we're starting to integrate. The bigger ones are doing that, and we're going through that EDI process with ours today. But yeah, I think we're on the low scale.
Craig?
So we absolutely integrate with all of our biggest vendors out there. So we're fully integrated EDI. So yes, all of the EDI documents we do as far as PO acknowledgements all the way to the actual invoicing itself. So it's very useful. It absolutely allows us to automate and not have to touch so much.
Scott?
Yeah, I should know the number off the top of my head, but I regretfully don't. I would say out of our top 100 suppliers, probably 45 to 50 are on EDI with, either all 4 of those types of documents or being worked on. And, we've got 850s, but we don't have, the ASNs or the invoice, and we're actively pursuing that. So.
Great. Excellent. Okay. Thanks. So this one, I think this is just a fun one. If you had the option of writing your own ERP, would you do it?
This comes up a lot, even in our internal discussions.
Okay.
No. No way.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I saw that question. I had to ask it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but it sounds like a little bit of fun.
I think you get so far into it sometimes. You're like, man, I could do that better,
Yeah. Sure.
You don't know what's on the other side. So
Right.
Yeah. And then you got to support it with the customer base of
Yes.
one, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So do you find the commercial bid process is a priority in your sales department, and does your ERP have that functionality, and is it important?
I'll go first. I think depends on your industry
Sure.
and how much of your customer base is, are we talking project bids? Are we talking quick turn quotes? Probably like a lot of our customers on this call, right? So it depends. Typically, I haven't seen that if it's a big bid package and you're doing complex and you got a lot of detail and drawings, and that ERP generally isn't good unless it's a very kind of boutique ERP geared toward that industry, and like I'd say,
Right.
project bids. Otherwise, you're going third-party bolt-on to generate those commercial bids and make them pretty.
John, how about in your world?
yeah, I haven't really experienced that too much in ours. Again, I've only been here a couple months, but yeah, not a lot in our area.
Craig?
So we do quite a bit of that, and it's both on the large project scale and, like Scott was mentioning, you're just pounding away to day-to-day quotes to get out pricing. On the larger projects, we've got the actual material list that we're downloading, but we're also applying all your brochure type documentation and whatever you want to provide with that. So we're doing that in-house right now. We're looking at some solutions. I know Infor provides some. They have a configure price quote solution, and then there's some others out there as well. But right now we're not integrated with that piece yet. I got enough balls up in the air. I don't want to add one more this year, so we'll probably look at that either next year or the year after.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been an MRO where there's not that much of that. and I've been in commercial construction where it's a huge part of the business, and the requirements are so different that it really has a bearing on what system you choose.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the change management, getting people to understand, this is going to be a battle. Craig, you talked about this as the most challenging thing businesses are going to go through, barring a natural disaster. And then let's talk about the continuous improvement of the system. So, you need to not only survive the transition, you got to improve it over time. And those things are married, because when you first put it in, it's pretty basic. Then you want to ramp it up and gain the benefits of the functionality over time. How do you prepare the organization for that and ensure you're on the right path for continuous improvement? Scott?
Yeah. I love that comment about, it's only one step above a natural disaster. And I think the change management piece is huge, and it goes to communication. I think, like John said, you can't communicate enough. One of the things, I like to use an analogy, right? To make people really understand the gravity of it, and maybe something they can relate to, hopefully not. But I said, replacing an ERP is like getting a heart transplant, right? You are changing the way work gets done every day, just like the heartbeat of the organization, daily work on your ERP, and you're changing that out, right? So it's going to take time. You're going to have some recovery. And oh, by the way, right, the hope is at the end, right, talking about continuous improvement, you're going to be better, right? You're going to be able to run faster, have more endurance with this new, pump in your organization. So it's definitely getting people to come along on the change and understand that there's going to be that. It's going to be harder before it gets easier. And then, to fulfill that promise of continuous improvement, we're going to make things better. I think the key thing is trying to have people and process in your organization that own it afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. You can't just leave it up to say, hey, that's an IT problem. It's got to be engaged with the business process owners. They have to have a stake in making sure their process is being followed and sustained and improved, and in partnering with, the people that are supporting the system.
Got it. Good answer, John.
Yeah, I definitely think there's the continuous improvement, right? You always got 2.0 or 2.1, as you go through implementing, you can't hit it out of the park. I know, I think we all want to, and we all, aspire to that, to say, hey, we're putting in this ERP system today and we're going to solve all the issues, right? But realistically, you have to realize that you won't. You'll find things as you're going along, and you got to, stack those behind the go live date. We'll get to this on this date and that kind of thing. So just keeping that, once you go live, it's not that Big Bang Theory anymore. It's about, rolling through, getting everything right. And to me, there's never that, oh, we're done, hey, we're good. It's
right.
always continuous improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, competitors are improving too, right? So you have to, and customer expectations are increasing, and they're experiencing capabilities, not just within their business purchasing life, but in their private lives. And that creates expectations about what their suppliers are going to offer them. Craig?
So selecting CSD for our ERP system, I've already decided at what point we were going to move from, hey, we're past implementation, to now we need to move towards continuous improvement. So we're 7 months in, almost to the date. We're past that, oh Lord, this sucks, is to, okay, now we got it. Now we're back to where we were moving from our previous ERP system, and now what's next? So with my team, tech touches everything. So let's just face it, every part of the organization uses technology. So what can we do to automate processes, to build in those pieces where our users, our team members don't have to go in and touch everything anymore, because it is a little bit slower, like we talked about. It's a little bit more clicky. So what processes can we take out to make everything faster? And that's where we're at right now. So one thing I will say too is we have a fantastic user organization for Infor. It's called TUG. to user group. And I just got back from a TUG conference, and boy, myself and some of the team members that went with me got a lot out of that. I mean, I've got clear strategy and direction as to where we need to go now, what's next, what are we going to focus on. So moving to the next phase is definitely automation throughout the entire organization, from warehouse to inside sales to accounting to everything. And that's why we chose CSD. It wasn't just to get us from point A to point B. It was for continuous improvement that we can build on for years to come.
Yeah, Scott, is your SAP house? Do you go to the SAP users group?
Some of our folks do, right, on the SAP team. I personally haven't done it, but yeah, it's a great point. Those are really valuable, right? To especially that peer networking and sharing of what's worked.
Sure.
Don't always get the answer you want from the vendor or a partner, because they're always trying to sell you something potentially, but having that peer networking of what's worked for other folks is really powerful.
John, what system are you on? I forgot.
We're on DMSI's Agility. And
Okay.
yeah, we definitely do the, I really believe in the user groups, especially if, like, to what Scott was trying to say there, if we can get away from the sales aspect of it and you're really truly talking with your peers and, hey, I did this, I did that kind of thing, and not stub your toe.
Okay, good. So, gosh, I'm dealing with a lot of questions here. Okay, so where would you rank the importance of automation and data sharing and order fulfillment from your vendors in your ERP migrations? John?
I do rate that high because I think getting, I think maybe it's after your user acceptance and that kind of stuff. I think making it more useful for your end users as well as your bottom line kind of thing. If you can get that streamlined, get as much automation as you can in there, you let the end user then do what they're supposed to do, which is look at the outliers and not continuously doing a boring job every day. So
Right.
the more the automation, the more that you can get from your vendors and take take hold of that. But that's that vendor relationship too, I think. So I do rank that kind of high because I think that's what makes the ERP the wow factor. So
Craig? Craig, what do you think in terms of automation of importance of automation and data sharing and order fulfillment from your vendors in your ERP migrations?
You know what, I think it's extremely important, but it's not just on our vendor side, it's our customer side as well. So all that data sharing, the KPI, all the reporting capabilities that you want to make sure that you have data to pull from is extremely important. The automation piece that I was talking about, just for example, we have a acknowledgement sent out to customers. Well, they usually reply and no, use this PO number. No, change it to this PO number. Well, let's automate that. Let's give them the ability to make the change right from the email and have that dump right back into our ERP system. Little things like that go a long way. So having that data sharing and creating the ability to automate things like that, it's extremely important.
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think, this seems like a pretty specific requirement, although for distribution, right? We'd all love to get every piece of data around a product we get from a supplier and pipe that in day one, right?
Right.
I don't know how often that happens, but if this is really kind of a key, I go back to those signature key business requirements. If this is something that absolutely drives your business and a key to the business case of doing this, then yeah, absolutely, that should be important. I agree with Craig, right? You got to be careful up front how much automation you're trying to build in so you don't get wrapped around the axle and delay the go live. And typically I see automation as a post go live optimization effort. But that's how I respond to that.
Okay, so I want to wrap up here by sort of tapping into your brains with some general advice. So we'll start with, how do you measure success in an ERP? How do you know you've been successful? And then, what's advice that we haven't covered yet? Some suggestions or cautions that you would give to someone on the call who's thinking about putting in a new ERP? You know, they're considering it, they're trying to figure out which system to use, and they come to you, maybe they hit you up in the bar at a conference, a user group. They say, how do you know what, you know, any other tips? I listened to that podcast or webcast. Any other tips that you left out, and how do you measure success? Who wants to start?
I guess I can try and kick that
You're
off.
you're up, Craig.
The most recent, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, without a doubt, manage expectations up front, all the way through the process, and even after go live. You can't remind people enough. It's like, this is what to expect, this is what to expect, this is what to expect. Super important. The second most important thing I would say is have resources. Boy, we had so many resources in place that I was able to reach out to, and Scott, a lot of it was networking partners. I mean, it's so important to be able to reach out to those who have already gone through what you're about to go through and talk through the process. Hey, we're running into this. What did you guys do? Nothing is better than that, to be able to reach out to those resources. Overall, I mentioned it too. It's leading. It's managing up and managing down. So it's reminding the your CEO, your board of directors, it's okay. This is gonna suck. It's supposed to suck. It's not a fun thing we're going through. Nobody wants to do it, but it's gonna be okay. And then also, getting down and talking to the managers and the team members in the warehouse and the sales department and the accounting department throughout the organization, hearing what they're struggling with, and be able to work through that process. Again, reaching out to those resources. We're going to get through this together. This is what we're going to do. This is the plan. By this date, we're going to have this done. So just anything you can do to take the uncertainty out of an ERP migration and any issues that your team members are running into, because there's going to be issues. You're going to think you planned for everything. I promise you didn't. And they will come to light that first, second, third day of go live, and you're going to have to work through that.
Or the first month end close.
And the first month close.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah, I certainly echo everything Craig said, and I was thinking about, how do you measure success, right? And I don't think I've ever really quantified and said, tried to have a metric with real data about this has been successful. You could, there's typically the IT organization will say, yep, we went live and there was no major issues and it's still running, so it's successful, right? Pat ourselves on the back. Then there's the business going, oh, this is horrible, and yeah, okay, you're going to experience that till you get through the 7-month mark, maybe, right? It's that,
right,
as we were talking, the trough of despair, that J-curve effect. Things get worse before they get better. I think I've always, yes, there is hey, it's a big project for the project team in the organization, and everybody deserves to celebrate once you do go live and you keep it live. But I think it's really more of anecdotally and qualitatively, what did the business owners, what are they saying, 3 months into it, right? That this is, thank you, appreciate it. It's been better, right? That's, I think, the true measure. And I think if, somebody would say, hey, what are the, I'm a big believer in, somebody asked the question, would you write your own ERP? I was like, oh, no way, right? Because so much of this is, you don't want to be out there on an island on your own. You want to have a community and other people in a vendor that's got some viability and a support network out there that you can leverage, right? It's you can go get help if you need it, and other people are doing things to leverage. And whether that you have a limited staff, most of us, are $20 billion companies and have an army of people. So what can we get in the marketplace to be able to support our business in the ERP, and that's key.
Yeah, I've always said writing your own ERP these days makes about as much sense as building your own delivery trucks. John, you want to take us home?
Yeah, I just what they both said. I think it's managing the expectation. I don't think I wish there was, hey, you did this, done, check this, done, but there isn't. And I wish, I wish it was more black and white, but that's, I guess that's the IT in me. But I know that on the business side, it is more about that touchy-feely, how are they doing their day-to-day job? Obviously, there's a change hurts. But you have to get past that first change and, oh, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is better than what I was doing before. So just really, setting the expectation, that drop of despair, the J curve, like you guys said, you just got to work through that. And then just keep in mind what you had set out to do and keep those as part of that expectation.
Great. And I do want to squeeze in one more question that Robin got in under the wire. How long did you keep the old system accessible and how?
So for me, keeping the old system, yeah, you want to limit access to it from any of the end users or the people that would, normally they just wake up one morning and be like, oh yeah, that's where I go to the old one and do it. So you got to limit the access there. But yes, you want to keep it available to the right people. There's again, get to month end, you get to whatever, there'll probably be that, hey, well, it was this number before. So you just have that archive kind of thing, but you don't want to really publicize it either because you don't want to have that crutch out there or the blanket, right? So, but just limit the access to it as much as you can.
I think that's a great question because there's that immediately afterwards and validating that. And then there's always tax and accounting that comes back and 4 years later, you're going through a sales and use tax audit or something from IRS and you need access to the system. So,
right.
You got to invariably either keep the database and the application kind of in cold storage. And depending on the complexity of the system, right, you might have to keep some licensing around and keep it on ice for the accounting and tax folks.
Right.
Or, if you're lucky, you can just kind of keep a data store or, in your data warehouse and get those specific tables or the database accessible for, tax reporting for, that 7-year window. That's always sneaks up on you. So it's a great question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I hadn't thought about it actually. Craig?
So we're 7 months in and the old database is still accessible. I have no plans in shutting that down. Now, to what John and Scott were both saying, nobody can really access that except for mostly the IT department, one person in accounting and one person in sales. That's it. Right. So, and to be honest with you, none of us have logged into that system in months. So it's there for pulling. We have all the information.
That's a good sign.
Yeah,
yes.
Good approach. Great
Awesome. Okay. Well, let me tell the audience, if you'll hang on for just a minute, about 2 upcoming programs. On June 28th on the Wholesale Change Show, which is the best interview show of CEOs in the wholesale distribution industry. I'm completely biased, but it's true. June 28th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. We'll have Brian Keller, the CEO of Keller Logistics Group. Then on July 12th, we will have something we do every year, which is the State of Sales and Wholesale Distribution. This year it's being done by Mike Kunkel, who's a sales effectiveness expert. I've seen his slides. They're fantastic. We want to thank Epicor for sponsoring Wholesale Change on June 28th and White Cup for coming back to support our state of sales and wholesale distribution. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. I can tell by the questions that the audience was very engaged. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks for attending. Bye now.
Take care.